So my name is Griffin. Right now, I'm currently a civil engineer for a private firm. We mostly do land development, um, but essentially, my story, where it all kind of begins, is uh, at the age of 6. My mother actually passed away from cancer, and it was very hard on our family, being with my dad and my brother. And it led down a series of unfortunate events where we actually became homeless. And we went homeless for around 3 to 4 years. And that's bouncing around friends' couches, hotels, motels, you name it, until, we finally hit the homeless shelter. So I spent, about 2 years in a homeless shelter. And in middle school, I made a pact to actually hit the restart button. We were actually able to get on our feet a little bit more. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but we were able to actually get in a rental home with the support of government aid and my grandma's help. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna make the choice to use my mindset and to be positive around my situation because I'm not in the shelter anymore. So I showed up every day to class curious with a positive mindset. I would sprint to the next class, try to finish as much work as possible. I would never have homework because I would do all of my work in class. And eventually it kept going from sixth grade all the way up to my senior year of high school. Um, and I made all A's all throughout, my senior year. And during my senior year of high school, uh, we couldn't afford the rental home anymore. It was about 4 months before graduation where we went homeless again. And literally the next week, the school announced that I was valedictorian of the class.
Yeah.
So a lot of mix of emotions of I'm homeless and I'm trying to take my AP exams. I'm still actually finishing up like college essays. I'm still trying to figure out what college I even want to go to. And then I'm hit with going homeless again. And I actually had to stay with my girlfriend at the time, which was an embarrassing conversation, of basically asking, for a place to stay. And fast forward to the actual graduation is I actually went viral. There was a news story that was aired by my brother's girlfriend at the time, and she had sent like a cameraman to the school to film because she thought it was touching. Here you have like a homeless kid who just got announced valedictorian, and I was super embarrassed. I didn't even want to do it, but she was like very persistent, and she sent the camera guy. We did a little bit, and my friends were all like, what the heck's going on? The very next day, it went viral. I was on the phone with Good Morning America, the Today Show, and it honestly though it changed my life because I saw the power that a story could have, and it inspires me to share that with others in hopes of motivating a student going through the same thing, or anyone. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a story. Now, where were you during this time? Like what state were you in?
So I was so the hardship was mainly in Louisville, Kentucky. So between the ages of when I was born up until 10 years old, I was in Louisville, Kentucky until my family moved to Jacksonville, Florida, which is about like 12 hours. So I went to elementary school all in Kentucky, and I hit the restart button, as I call it, in Florida. So
Yeah. So so did you tell your friends? Did your friends know or no?
in elementary school, I kept as much of a secret as I could, um, because it was noticeable because I rode a different bus to school. So when I would ride the homeless shelter bus, it was a small bus, it was dingy, and I was the only kid to ride the bus and get dropped off on this bus. So I think a couple of peers had an idea, but I don't think they really understood like what homelessness meant. And I think I was even trying to understand my situation too. I just kind of viewed it all as just a temporary thing of just we're not doing very well, and one day we'll all be out of here and I'll live to tell the story.
Yeah.
um but it was embarrassing, and so yeah, I held it in, and I was never really vocal with teachers either.
So why do you think you held it in, or because you said you didn't really understand it really, but could you feel a stigma already of homelessness? Like, where the word homelessness, does it carry the stigma that you don't want to be labeled under that?
For sure, yeah. Like the label of being poor, like for instance, I would get really embarrassed walking everywhere and riding buses, and um, because that just wasn't the normal. Everyone else was riding in their cars, or they had both parents to take them to the grocery store. I had to walk everywhere and take metro buses, and um, I couldn't invite friends over. Kids would invite me over, but I didn't necessarily want to go over because then I'd have to get dropped back off at the homeless shelter. So, and I think the embarrassment and sort of like the understanding of, my development of what homelessness even meant, um, it caused a lot of embarrassment because I think kids just didn't really understand.
Yeah.
Um, and it did happen actually. A parent dropped me back off to the homeless shelter, and a couple of kids were in the car, and they were kind of just puzzled. They were like this isn't a house. This isn't an
Yeah.
apartment. Like, who are these people outside of this shelter? Um, and I think answering those questions was very difficult for me because I didn't have the answers.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I didn't know why I was at the shelter. I didn't know why. I had an idea at the time, but once I actually got older and understood more about what was happening with, our family, that it all sort of took shape.